So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Tuesday, June 29th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, June 29th here today, coming off of another night in sports, another Yankees loss. The Mets also took a loss yesterday as Kyle Schwarber hits 2 more home runs. It was 15 home runs in his last 17 games, and he's just been on fire, and there's no other way to put it. He has been on fire, and he's been dominant, and he is just he's just been crazy and, hitting home runs almost every night, it seems, recently. And the fact that, he's up there batting almost like 260 now. At the beginning of the season, he was decently low, and now he's all the way back up there to 250, 260 area. He's just been so good. And, the streak continues. And that's one thing with Kyle Schwarber that you got to notice is, it's not like this was 1 or 2 games. I mean, this has been kind of a whole month thing. He's just been on fire this month. He's been on fire these past couple weeks, and he continues to dominate. He continues to be on fire as he hits 2 more last night as the Nationals beat the Mets. And now the Mets will head to Atlanta for 3 games before coming to Yankee Stadium for 3, which is the Subway Series on 4th of July weekend. And obviously, the Yankees take another loss, another bad loss, another terrible loss, another flat out, just another flat loss. And there's no really other way to say it. And like I said, I'm going to be, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but there's not much else I could say. There's not much else I could say. Not much else nothing I can do about it. I'm not with the Yankees. I'm a fan. Not that I'm not I can go out there and make trades to help this team. Not much else I can say other than this team's just not playing well, and we're not playing good, and it's simple as that. And right now we're going through a stretch where we just can't win ball games, and it's starting to catch up to us. We're now 7.5 back from, first place in our division. I mean, you continue to lose, that gets to 9 and 10 and 11, and things really start to get out of hand. And the more games that Boston starts winning and Tampa starts winning, and even if the Blue Jays start to get on a little bit of a run, they're 7-3 in their last 10, and they got a 2-game win streak going right now. So they're hot recently. The 3 teams in front of the Yankees right now are playing much better baseball than them, and that's you can't argue. You can't argue about that. You can't argue at all about that. The 3 teams that are in front of the Yankees are playing better baseball. And, although the Rays are struggling a little bit, they're 4-6 in their last 10. The Red Sox are 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 4 straight. Blue Jays are 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 2 straight. So you look at the other teams in front of them, they're still good. And obviously the Rays still got enough cushion that they're 47-32. So the Yankees right now are 7.5 back. And we're not playing good baseball. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we're just terrible. I mean, there's not much else I could say. And, I'm going to come on this podcast every day, and obviously even if they get a win, it's still nice, but, it's that scene that we've just got to be better. And you got to take it game by game. You can't look too far ahead. You just got to take it game by game, and hopefully something sparks this team. And we'll see what it's all about. Yankees and Mets back on today. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. The MLB teams in New York not putting on a great show. Obviously, they're the only 2 things that are on in New York. Obviously, all of the other New York sports are done. Around sports, NHL's in the Stanley Cup Final. Lightning took Game 1, and the Suns and Clippers. Clippers took Game 5 last night, so that series will head to a Game 6 in LA. Then obviously the Hawks are still down 2-1, I believe, so they'll play again tonight. So other than those 3 other series that still got to go, Stanley Cup and then the 2 conference finals, baseball is the only sport on right now. And right now the Yankees and the Mets are not putting on a great show. I hope the Mets continue to struggle. I love seeing them struggle, but I hope the Yankees start to pick things up because we need to. And I'm still rooting for wins. I know a lot of people out there just want to tank, and a lot of people just want to tank and start over. No, I'm not that kind of fan. I'm still rooting for wins. I still hope we can try to find a way to turn this thing around. Do I think we will? There haven't been any real solutions that have shown us yet And we'll see if anything does come out eventually that maybe we do find a solution. But right now, we're not playing good baseball, and it's as simple as that. So, Yankees play today. Mets play today. Yankees' second game of the 4-game set against the Angels. Tyone takes the mound versus Andrew Heaney. You got the Mets on today. First game of a 3-game set in Atlanta. Then you got the Lightning have a day off. Suns and Clippers, Lightning, Canadians game that was on last night. They have a day off today. Suns, Clippers also day off today. They played last night. And the Hawks-Bucks game, pivotal game for tonight. You know, the Bucks could take a commanding 3-1 lead on the Hawks, and the Hawks could also tie the series up and make things real interesting. So we'll see how everything plays out. Hawks, they're back at home. This is their final home game before heading back to Milwaukee for Game 5. It's a big game for them. They can win this game. You then head to Milwaukee. You're tied 2-2. Even if you lose that game in Milwaukee, you go back home for Game 6. You lose tonight, things are going to get real hard. Then you're down 3-1. You got to win the next 3. So, Trae Young's also questionable, so that's definitely that's going to make a difference in that game. All right, so let's get into the topics for today's podcast. As always, or not as always, but most recently, we're going to get into the Yankees. So I wanted to get into today Brian Cashman. With the Yankees' loss last night, I really wanted to get this out there. I want Cashman fired. I want him fired now. I want him fired immediately. I've been wanting him fired since he fired Girardi after that 2017 ALCS run that obviously lost. We lost in 7 games to the eventual champion Astros, who eventually got found that they were cheating. So technically, they weren't cheating. There's a chance that the New York Yankees make the World Series, and who knows what happens after that. The Dodgers were also a very good team that year. It would have been interesting. I'm not going to get into the what if part of it because that's a different story, different day. But I wanted to get into Cashman. I wanted to get into my thoughts on him, why the Yankees should fire him, why I want him fired, and also it is very concerning if the New York Yankees don't fire Brian Cashman before the trade deadline. I will tell you why it is concerning to me, and it's concerning to many other Yankee fans. I'm not much of an advocate to fire Boone right now. I'm really not. I'm more of an advocate to fire Cashman. I'll tell you why when we get to this segment. Then I wanted to get into Morgan Moses. This deal happened a couple days ago, but I haven't touched upon it. I want to touch upon it here. Morgan Moses has signed with the New York Jets. The offensive tackle, former Washington football team tackle, or whatever, tackle. Well, he was with the Redskins, the football team, whatever you want to say. He was there for 5, 6 years, 7. I don't know how long he was there, but he's been there his whole career. He was there for a long time, and now he's with the member of the New York Jets, and I love this move as a Jet fan. This is a move that's really going to help our offensive line big time. You're talking about a guy that's going to make our offensive line go from right here to right over here. And, he brings a veteran presence in the locker room, a guy who stays healthy consistently. I believe he hasn't missed a game in like 5 years. A guy who has had experience, and has experience with young quarterbacks and so many different offenses. And, he's had experience throughout the NFL, obviously. He's had experience in some of Washington's different offenses they've ran because they've had a few different coaches while he's been there. And I love the move. You bring a veteran's presence to the locker room, add on to the offensive line. I keep saying it. Just get offensive linemen. Just keep getting offensive linemen. Never can hurt to have too many offensive linemen. Just keep building the O-line, and you'll find the right pieces, and eventually it'll work. And the Jets' offensive line looks really solid going into training camp. So I'll get into that. Then we'll get into the New York Sports Update. As always, we'll finish off the podcast with the New York Sports Update. Yankees on today. Mets on today. Yankees' second game of 4-game set against the Angels. Mets' first game of the 3-game set against the Braves. Stanley Cup day off today for Lightning Canadians. Lightning took Game 1. Game 2, I believe, will be tomorrow. You get into Bucks Hawks tonight. And Suns Clippers, they played last night, so they have a day off today. They'll play Game 6 back in LA. That's a big series. That's a big game. Clippers win that game. You force a Game 7 heading back to Phoenix. So we'll see how all that plays out. But with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the New York Yankees last night fall yet again 5-3 in 5-3 It wasn't good. It was not a good performance again. And, the Yankees last night, I've talked about how their hitting's been a little bit better recently. If you look at the amount of hits they've had, I've been saying that their hitting with runners in scoring position has been the real issue. And last night, it was really just their hitting. It really wasn't even hitting with runners in scoring position. It was just their hitting. They only had 6 hits. The Angels had 11 hits. And yet again, it's just like this team is just not clicking. And this team's just not playing the baseball that we all expect and we all hope that they can play. And we all know that. Like, this team, from the talent on this roster, we know that this team is capable to a lot better play than what they're showing. And it's really the truth. And I'm not lying when I tell you that. It's the truth. This team is way better than what they're showing. There's a lot of talent in this locker room. There's a lot of talent in this locker room. It's just not coming together. It's just not working. Now, there are always those people that say, has this team hit their peak? And their peak might have just been, they've just done. This team together, all these guys on the same roster just might be done. You might just have to, start to, maybe rebuild a little bit, and maybe take a step back and start to, kind of rebuild a little bit. But the thing with this Yankees team and rebuilding, and I'll get to Cashman in a second, I just wanted to kind of talk about this to open up this segment. The thing with the Yankees and this whole rebuilding thing, if we do decide to rebuild, is the fact that we have a lot of big money, we have a lot of pay, we have a lot of big money guys on this roster. So just dumping these guys off, releasing these guys, or trading these guys, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you a ton of money back. You're actually going to need to pay a lot more money. It's going to turn into dead cap. It's going to turn into guaranteed. And you're going to have to eat up all that wasted money that you spent. So all these high money guys, if you do decide to get rid of them, it's still going to cost you a lot of money because you gave them so much to begin with. And that's where I don't think a lot of Yankee fans understand. It might be easy to just say, oh, let's rebuild and let's get rid of this guy and this guy. Well, yeah, but when they have all these guaranteed money and they've all this, different incentives in their contract, it's harder to just dump off all this money and gain a lot more when you've given these guys these such big contracts. And I have no issue with the big contracts. I just wanted to open that up first because Yankee fans think it's so easy to just start a rebuild. It's not that easy. You gotta first off figure out, your cap situation. You gotta figure out your money situation, right? You gotta figure out all that, and then you gotta figure out your next plan. You gotta figure out trades, figure out who's on the roster, who's not, who to build around, what foundation you want, right? That's all it is. And right now, I believe the New York Yankees don't have the right leader for the job. And that is Brian Cashman. And I've been wanting Brian Cashman fired since he fired Joe Girardi back in 2017. And I ask a lot of people that I know, I have been wanting Brian Cashman fired for about 3-4 years now. I'm not one of these fans that have jumped on the fire Brian Cashman train now. I wanted Brian Cashman fired since he fired Girardi. I wanted him fired that last offseason. He's failed in the pitching department. He has not gotten enough guys I feel like that can get the big hit. He's just not formed together a good enough baseball team. And you can't argue that. We haven't won a World Series with this roster. This roster has made the playoffs. This roster has gotten to the playoffs. This roster has won games. But they just have not been able to get to that next level. And maybe that's just that they just can't get to that next level. And like I said, I've been wanting him fired since he fired Girardi, who led that team who was supposed to be rebuilding. Remember, that team in 2017, we went into the season. The expectation wasn't to make the playoffs. The expectation wasn't to make the deep playoff run. The expectation was to just be, We were still going through a rebuild, or that's at least what we thought. And that team ended up going all the way to the ALCS, 1 game away from the World Series, ended up losing in 7 games to the Houston Astros, who, by the way, found out that they were cheating that entire run, and in 2018, 2019, and finally they got caught. Right? So, the Yankees, if they weren't cheating, there's a good chance the Yankees make the World Series. And he fired him. Why did he fire him? I have absolutely no clue. He took a team that wasn't supposed to do anything. He didn't make them competitive. He didn't just get them to the playoffs. He got them 1 game away from the World Series. And since that, I've hated Cashman. Since that, I've wanted him gone. That's just poor decision-making. That's just poor move. Right? That you're talking about a coach that took a team from being nothing. A lot of young guys, they were still trying to fix out and wanted to see all the young guys. He took that team and got him to the ALCS. Cashman fired him. So that's really my little Cashman story since I've wanted him gone. But here's my issue with Cashman, and here's my issue with the Yankees. I know there's a lot of people out there that want Boone fired, right? I get that. No, I would tend to disagree, but I get the frustration and wanting to fire the head coach, right? That's a lot of things. That's a lot of things. That's a lot of times what happens. You know, in any sport, when a team starts to struggle, you all of a sudden just say get rid of the coach. When hitting starts to struggle, you all of a sudden just say get rid of the hitting coach, right? And that does absolutely nothing. Look at what the Mets are doing without Chili Davis. They're actually hitting a little worse in some categories, right? Their hitting still not very good, right? So I get the frustration behind wanting to fire Boone. I understand that. Would I agree right now? I wouldn't. And I know you might think I'm crazy, and I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't fire Boone right now. But back to my, the fire Boone thing, I get it, right? I did it as a Jet fan, right? When the Jets started struggling, we were all fire Adam Gase. Now, Gase was terrible. I did it a little bit with the Rangers this season. When we started to struggle, that thought did cross my mind of getting rid of Quinn, right? There's always been a ton of that. That's always what you do. You go on a month span of not winning a ton of games and losing a lot, the coach always gets blamed. That's how it is, especially in New York sports. You're not playing well, the coach is going to get backlash, and Boone's getting a lot of that right now. But why I really want Cashman fired, and Boone can wait. If Cashman gets fired, more than likely Boone will be gone at the end of the year too. Because if Cashman gets fired, you got to blow everything up in terms of coaching staff. You just got to start over. But with Boone, right, Cashman's the one who put this roster together. Cashman's the one who went out and got this team. Cashman's the one who spent the money. Cashman's the one that signed these free agents, made the trades. He's the one that put this team together, not Aaron Boone. Right, not Aaron Boone. So, right, in terms of saying, oh, this is all Boone's fault, well, how? How is it all Boone's fault? You could go ahead and say, oh, they're not playing for Boone, and that's a fair argument. You could say, oh, his decision-making is not very good. That's also a fair argument. But in terms of the roster, if you're complaining that this team's just not playing good and you're just going to blame it all on Boone, that can't be the case when Brian Cashman is the guy who put this roster together. He's the guy that put all these pieces together, tried his best to get this team to be a championship contending team, and it's not working out. Aaron Boone was not the one that put this roster together. And another thing, too, is Cashman's the one making the lineup. He's the one that's making that lineup. He's the one that's putting out who's going to catch, who's going to play first, who's going to second, short, third, and then left to right in the outfield. Okay, center, right, left, or whatever. Left field, center field, right field. And then who's going to pitch. That's Brian Cashman. That's not Aaron Boone. So you could say, okay, Boone's decision-making. You could say that maybe he's lost the team. Those are fair arguments. I would tend to disagree, but those are arguments that you can make. But in terms of who makes the lineup, it's Brian Cashman. I can guarantee you he's the one making lineup. Who put this team together? Not Aaron Boone, it's Brian Cashman. Aaron Boone's the one who he got this team handed to him. So obviously Cashman did not do a good enough job building this team. He didn't do enough job. He didn't do a good enough job. He didn't. This team can't hit with runners in scoring position. This team relies too heavily on the home run ball. I mean, yesterday, we hit 3 solo home runs. That's not going to get the job done. Right? It's not going to get the solo home runs aren't going to get the job done. Sure, 3-run home runs might, yeah. But that's also a 3-run home run. Those aren't that often. Getting a double with the bases loaded, is that going to score you runs? Yes. Hitting singles and doubles and getting runners on base and, gets down to situational stuff and getting hits and stuff like that in big situations, is that going to score you runs? Yes. Solo home run's not going to win you the game. That's how Brian Cashman built this team. Off of relying on the home run, he built this team relying on the home run, built this team. He's failed in the pitching department. He has failed in the pitching department. You can't make the argument that he hasn't. I get it, he went out and got Cole. Okay, he got Cole. Cole's been amazing for us. But other than that, he has big F in the pitching department. That's been his worst thing. And it seems like he refuses to go out and get a big-name pitcher. Instead, he just tries to load up on this lineup that's not doing anything. It's just not doing anything. Instead, he tries to load up on home run hitters and guys like that, right? Let's focus on hitting with runners in scoring position first. Then we can focus on hitting home runs and hitting grand slams and getting all these, big home runs and stuff like that. Let's focus on that first. Cashman's the one who put this team together. He's the one that should get blamed. He's the one that should get fired. And another thing that concerns me with Cashman is the trade deadline's coming around the corner, right? I believe, I think it's, July 30th or something? I'm not sure. It's about a month. But trades can happen now. As you get closer and closer and closer to the trade deadline, trades happen and stuff like that. And if the Yankees continue to lose, we'll go from buyers to sellers. If we start to win, there's a chance that we go to buyers. If we kind of are there's a chance that we do absolutely nothing and we just wait till the offseason. That's usually Cashman's way. Cashman never does anything at the trade deadline. But another reason why you want to fire Cash right now, not just because, we're struggling and stuff like that. I think it would be a great time to fire Cash right now. Because I don't want Brian Cashman in control of the trade deadline. I don't want him in control of the prospects. I don't want him in control of this roster. I don't. He's done a poor enough job trying to build this team and trying to get this team to a championship. He's done a poor enough. We haven't done it. We haven't gotten to a championship yet. He's done a bad job of it. So, he's done a poor job. I don't want him in control of this roster, of this team anymore, especially as we get to the trade deadline. Because as we get to the trade deadline, that's when prospects' names gets on the table. That's another thing he's failed in. He's traded away so many prospects. He's traded away so much talent, so much young talent. Look at that Paxton trade. How's that working out for us? Paxton's back with the Mariners. That trade's been a terrible move. And that was one of those trades that a lot of people, when he first made it, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, this is great. No, it wasn't. It was terrible. Because you want to know why? Paxton's back on the Mariners. And I believe he's injured. We got a pitcher that was out of his prime. We got a pitcher that wasn't good anymore. We got a pitcher that had a lingering back issue. Right? Cashman goes out and gets those guys. But he misses out on a lot of big names. But that's the issue. I don't want Cashman in control of this roster, in control of the farm system when we get to trade deadline. That is genuinely scary to think about. Because if the Yankees do decide, and I don't know if I'm full on board like this, like I said, let's play this season out, then we can focus on what we do in the offseason. Right? I don't know what the Yankees are going to decide to do. If the Yankees miss the playoffs this year, are they going to try to make another run at it? Are they going to try to maybe get a couple more pieces and just go all in? Are they going to just tear everything down? Or are they going to kind of do what the Rangers did and take a little bit of a step back? But if they do decide to take a little bit of a step back, you need to have your farm system needs to be at top game. Right? The Rangers right now, they have one of the top farm systems. They have some of the best prospects out there. The Yankees do as well. But Cashman has a terrible history of, number one, he raves about how good our farm system is. He never uses them. He trades most of them away. And half the time, these guys end up just not ever getting up to the major leagues. Because Cashman, it's almost like they just get forgotten about in the minor leagues. Oswald Peraza, Chris Gittins, Anthony Volpe, if you really want to get down to low A. Jansen Junk. There's a lot of really good prospects that the New York Yankees have. A lot of really good prospects that the Yankees have. Diego Castillo. There's a lot of really good infielders. There's a lot of really good pitchers. There's a lot of really good young prospects that the New York Yankees have in their farm system. And I'm actually genuinely worried if we hand the keys to Brian Cashman yet again to the trade deadline. I'm concerned that he's going to give up a lot of these prospects away. And if you do want to enter a rebuild, how are you going to be able to do it when your farm system went from being very solid to all of a sudden having absolutely nobody? That's an issue, and it's concerning. And the Yankees need to do it sooner rather than later, because you cannot have Brian Cashman have the keys to the trade deadline. You cannot. You can't. That is genuinely a scary thing to think about, because he's messed up so many times in the past, And if he messes up again and we want to enter a rebuild, we do decide to take a step back, then what are we going to do it with if he gets rid of all of our prospects? Because he's done it too many times, and I don't trust him. And I continue not to trust Brian Cashman. Once again, Yankee fans, who put the team together, who's making the lineup, who's making the trades? Not Aaron Boone. All three of those, check off the box, Brian Cashman. Terrible, needs to get rid of him now. One of the worst GMs out there. And I mean that. We haven't won a World Series in a decade. And I understand you might say, oh, poor Yankees, they haven't won a World Series in a decade. Some teams haven't made it in forever. Some teams haven't won one like the Mets since the 1900s. I get that. But what people also don't understand is we have a roster right now that was supposed to get there. We've had a roster that's supposed to get there for 4 or 5 years now. We haven't. We haven't even gotten to the World Series. At least if we got in there, we could at least say, okay, well, if this team has gotten there, we just couldn't get the job done. We haven't even gotten to the World Series yet. So that's the frustrating part. It's not even so much that we haven't won a World Series in a decade. It's more so the fact that this team is supposed to be a World Series contending team. This team is supposed to be the team that's supposed to get us there, and we're not even playing anywhere competitive, close to competitive. And it's frustrating. And night in and night out, we're coming out with flat performances. And yet again, we lose 5-3 last night to the Angels. And Dylan Bundy, I know he left because he was throwing up on the mound, which was something I haven't seen in a while. But even a guy like him, we should have been hitting him. I know he only pitched, we were hitting him actually with an inning and 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned. We were, hitting him and stuff like that. We were getting to him, but, you got it. If he stays in the game longer, what is it? But still. And then Suarez comes in, he's had a good season, and the Yankees just couldn't hit him. It's just frustrating because, you go out, you get all these players, you get all these big names, and when they're not putting wins together, they're not stringing wins together, it's tough, it's frustrating as a fan. And right now, the New York Yankees stand 6 back in the wild card, and they are 5 back in the loss column. So yesterday they were 4 back, now they're 5 back, and they're 7 back in the win column. So not great there. Overall, they're 6 games back, and the Yankees right now aren't doing well. 4-game losing streak, 4-6 in their last 10 games, and it's gone so bad, we have more runs allowed than we do runs scored. And that's how bad it's gone. And, the pitching was good at the beginning of the season, but the pitching's starting to fail. So, Cashman looked like a genius for a month when he went out and got all these, small price pitchers, and it looked like, wow, we might actually have a rotation now. But it only lasted about a month. Now the pitching's struggling. And, as much as, Michael King, I think, could be solid coming out of the bullpen, we got to stop starting him. You've got to. And that's, and again, Cashman. You've got to stop starting Michael King. You just got to. Guy can't get out of the first inning. And nothing against him, but I've been saying it for a while now. I actually said it the one game we were playing against the Red Sox when he let up, 2 home runs or something in the first inning. I said, this guy has talent. He's got it. You cannot start him. He's a reliever that you're trying to start. That's almost like asking Aroldis Chapman to start a baseball game. No. Some guys are better in the reliever role. It's their preparation. It's the pitches they throw. It's the type of lineup they face. It's the time of game. It's all of that. You're asking a reliever to start a game is completely outrageous. And that's what the Yankees have been doing for the past 3 to 4, 5 starts with Michael King. They're asking a reliever, a guy who should be coming out of the bullpen, to start a game. You can't do that. He can't get out of the first inning. Yesterday, he doesn't allow, those 2 runs in the first inning. It's a tie game. And that's the one thing with King. That's what I say. He hasn't been pitching that bad. He just can't get out of the first inning. Other than the first inning, I believe he did not let up another run. I believe, he went 4 1/3. So, he let up 2 in the first, and the Angels scored 1 in the 5th and 1 in the 6th. Then they added 1 more in the 8th. And Michael King went 4 1/3, 2 earned, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. So he only allowed 2 earned runs. You take those 2 earned runs away, it's a 3-3 game. And who knows who wins. The rest, that's a difference. That's a what if, but that's what I'm saying. Michael King, he's got to stop starting. This is just decision making here. He's a reliever. He's a guy that should be coming out of the bullpen. He's a guy that, we saw him on opening day, I believe, do it. Second game as well. He's a guy that if your pitcher can only get 4 or 5 innings out of him, he's a guy that can come in and give you 3, 4 innings. Same thing with Nestor Cortes. Those are what you kind of call your mid-relievers, your kind of extended guys that, if in fact your pitcher can only go 3 innings, those are the guys that can come in and give you about 4 strong innings and get the job done. They're not like a Chapman that's a 1, maybe if Chapman pushing in a little bit of 2-inning guy. They're not like a Chad Green that's usually a 1 or a 2-inning guy, or a Darren O'Day who's only out there for 1, or one of those guys that might go out, like a Loizaga who might come in the 8th and set up Chapman, right? Michael King's not a starter. He's a reliever. He's a guy that can go long innings. Same thing with Nestor Cortes. He's a guy that can go out and give you long innings. You need him to give you 3, 4 innings, he will, and he's done that this season. Michael King, same thing. You need it, if pitcher can only go 5 innings, you need him to go 3 and keep the game close. Michael King will do that. So, why is he still starting? That's besides me. I'm sure that's a lot of Cashman. And like I said, check off the boxes. Who creates the lineup? Brian Cashman. Who put this team together? Brian Cashman. Right? And ultimately, who's got the keys to the trade deadline? It's Brian Cashman. And that's not a good thing to think about because that's concerning. And yes, he hasn't made many other moves. But if we do want to decide to take a step back at the end of this season, if he gets rid of all of these prospects and all that, what are you going to do about it? And like I mentioned this again yesterday, all the Yankee fans that are saying to trade Frazier and get rid of this guy and get rid of that guy, stop. Please, stop. Okay? You're not going to get much for Frazier anymore. You're not. You're not going to get much for Frazier. You might be able to throw him in a deal with another player, but just saying get rid of Frazier, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not. Right? He's batting, like 180 right now. So his stock went completely down. 2 years ago was the time to get Frazier when he was still a prospect and he was still not an everyday player and was still, up and down. That was the time to trade Frazier. Same thing with Gleyber Torres. All these people that just think, get rid of Gleyber Torres and get Trevor Story. You're not going to be able to get Trevor Story straight up for Gleyber Torres. You're not. You're going to have to give up a whole lot more than just Gleyber Torres. Even if Gleyber Torres was playing well, you would have to give up a lot more. And, this Judge trade talk too needs to stop. Okay, the Judge is the face of the franchise. He's probably the best season out of anyone. He's good on defense. He's good at the plate. He's the face of the franchise. If you do decide to take a step back, you still need someone to build around. That's what the Rangers did. They went out and got Panarin. They're kind of building around him. He's almost like the face, right? So people don't realize you can't just trade everyone away, and you can't just trade Frazier or trade Torres. Their stock has dipped a lot. You're not going to be able to get anything for Frazier. You might be able to get something, if some team sees something in for him. But same thing with Torres. You're not going to be able to just trade Torres and get Trevor Story. Okay, Trevor Story is one of the best shortstops in baseball. Torres is batting like 232. All right? Just think. Think a little bit. Cashman's got to be fired. They've got to fire Cashman. Torres is batting 238. He went over 4 last night with 2 strikeouts. And and Frazier's batting 186. So you're welcome. So if you're going to get something for Frazier batting 186 and you're going to get something for Torres batting 238, good luck with that. You're not getting anything in return. And if you are going to trade them, it's going to have to be in like a type of move where you kind of just slide another player in. We'll give you this and this guy and a couple picks and maybe this prospects, and then we'll just throw Frazier in there, kind of just as another throw in. Frazier's just had a tough year. And I don't mean to be negative saying, I'm not saying that we shouldn't trade him. I'm just saying you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to trade him. You can't just go out and say, let's trade Frazier. No one's going to want a guy that's batting 186. Same thing with Torres. If he was batting 290 right now and raking and his defense was still struggling, then you could say, wow, we could get Story for this guy. He's batting 238. His defense is better, but still, you're not going to get Story. You're not gonna give up trade Torres and just get Story. All right. So that's what I got for the New York Yankees. Like I mentioned, Cashman's got to go. I mean, it's simple as that. I don't know if I'm all in on giving up. I don't know if I'm all in on giving up Boone. I would tend to disagree because Boone didn't make this. But at the end of the day, we just gotta. This team's got to be better. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record. A lot of the other Yankee fans are going to sound like a broken record, but it's simple as this. It's just got to be better. So, alrighty. So now we get into a next segment. Here is more of a positive segment, and a lot of the thing. If we talk about the Yankees right now, it's a lot of negatives right now, but more of a positive segment right now is the New York Yankees went out and signed offensive tackle Morgan Moses to improve the O-line, not just by a little bit, but vastly improve the O-line. And the New York Jets and Joe Douglas this season have done a phenomenal job improving the O-line and ultimately protecting our franchise quarterback in Zach Wilson. So I wanted to get into this move coming up next. Alrighty, so Jets rumors. Former Washington football offensive tackle Morgan Moses agrees to 1 year, $3.6 million contract. And I know it's June 29th, and this happened, I believe, on Friday, which was like June 25th. I know it's a couple days ago. I know it's kind of late, but I still wanted to get to it. I still want to talk about it. Obviously, it happened on a Friday, which was after I did my podcast, so you go into a weekend. And then yesterday with the Yankees, and I wanted to get into the Stanley Cup, so there's already stuff on that. I'm not just going to avoid talking about the Yankees getting swept by the Red Sox, so today I had an open topic. I wanted to get to Cashman, especially after last night's loss, and I wanted to get to Morgan Moses, who the New York Jets signed, and a couple days ago I talked about him. I think last week or maybe even the week before that, because the Jets were close to getting to a deal, and it actually took a couple days. We did hear that it was going to be a multi-year deal. Turns out it was only a 1 year, $3.6 million deal. But, at the end of the day, if he has a good year this year, you could easily sign him back, and you might want to give him more of a little bit of a more of a hefty paycheck if he does, in fact, have a good year and he performs like he has his entire career. But I've always said this as an NFL fan, and I will always say this. It can never hurt to go out and get offensive linemen. And I've always said that, and that's what I think the New York Giants really messed up in the draft. Right? They didn't go out and get really a big offensive lineman. They should have, they didn't. Even if it means going out and getting 2-3 guys in the later rounds, just grab as many offensive linemen you can, and you can't hurt to have too many. Number one, injuries, and number two, hey, if you see a guy that's, quick, speed, you see a guy that might actually be performing well, boom, just like that, you got that. It doesn't hurt to have extra bodies up front to have protect your quarterback. And one of the things, and Joe Douglas and the New York Jets, and a lot of people won't believe it, but it's the truth. If you actually read articles, if you look up on it, instead of just going off of the opinion, the New York Jets have had an incredible offseason. They have. This was one of the Jets' most crucial off seasons in years, and this has been one of the Jets' most successful off seasons in many years, and it's the truth. And maybe you don't believe that, but if you read any article out there, if you look at ESPN, if you look at what the New York Jets did, if you look at rankings, the New York Jets had a very successful offseason. We went out and got a lot of players that we needed to. We had a very successful draft. We hired the right coach. It all started right there, hiring Robert Saleh. That all of a sudden makes your offseason, before the offseason even started, we hired Robert Saleh, and that all of a sudden made it that much better with that hire. And one of the things the New York Jets have struggled in the past couple years is building the offensive line. And to be completely honest, the New York Jets have had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL for many, many, many years now. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. They have. We've had a very bad offensive line for many years now. And last season, it got slightly better with, the addition of Mekhi Becton, and you got Connor McGovern, who I thought last year actually did a relatively good job. Greg Van Roten struggled a little bit earlier in the year, got better towards the end. I feel like last season with the New York Jets offensive line, it was really kind of with a lot of new pieces. It was kind of one of those like work in progress. It was still a project. It was still a work in progress. It was one of those things where, they had to come together. They had to build chemistry in the weird offseason, the short offseason. They weren't able to really build as much chemistry as maybe they would have hoped. And yet they still, I thought, had a decent year for the offensive line. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't something you want every year. But towards the end of last season, their offensive line did get better. And this year, they made it so much better. Number one, Mekhi Becton's going to his second year. So automatically, he's going to develop. He's going to be good. He was really good last season. I believe he was one of the best rookie offensive linemen last year. He had a great year for the New York Jets. Definitely their best offensive lineman. And like I mentioned, it doesn't hurt going out and drafting and picking up more offensive linemen. The New York Jets went out and drafted Elijah Vera Tucker, as us Jets fans call him, AVT, out of USC. And now you look at it, you have Mekhi Becton, AVT, and you have Connor McGovern. And that left side of the line, and I've mentioned this so many times, nothing is more important than protecting your quarterback's blind side, especially a rookie quarterback who you want to keep healthy, who you want to get him off, you want to get him, started off on the right foot, right? Especially a quarterback like Zach Wilson, you want to protect his blind side. And yes, he's mobile, and yes, he can get out of a lot of collapsing pockets, and yes, he can get out of, pressure and stuff like that. I get that. He did it at BYU. He's mobile. I get that. But still, nothing better than protecting your quarterback's blind side, and that's what the New York Jets did, getting Mekhi Becton, obviously last year, and then this season, most recently, getting Elijah Vera Tucker. Then obviously you got the center Connor McGovern, who I thought actually did a relatively good job last season. Was he amazing? No. Was he solid? Yeah. I mean, he did his job. He blocked. He snapped. He did his job. And he's a veteran too, so he was kind of a leader, a little bit of a mentor for the other guys, and he's actually pretty respected around the locker room. If you ask guys like Becton and ask guys, even if Tucker has said it, he's actually well respected around the locker room. And then you go to the right side, and the right side was a little bit weaker. You had Greg Van Roten and George Font. And George Font I was actually relatively excited about last season. A little excited about just because, the offensive line in Seattle wasn't great, but, you kind of target, that one guy, and it was kind of George Font there. And now you bring him over to the Jets, and he was also a guy that's been around for a long time, and he kind of struggled a little bit there as well. But now the New York Jets go out and get Morgan Moses out of Washington, a guy who last season, I was watching some of his highlights actually today, in the playoff game last season between Washington and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the wild card round, when he was able to stop Shaquille Barrett, who had a great season last year, and JPP. It was just phenomenal. What he did last year was just straight up phenomenal. And he had an excellent season last year, and he was dominant. And this isn't just one of these moves where it makes your offensive line or it makes your team go from here to there. It wasn't a move that dipped it. It wasn't a move that kind of kept it the same. This is a move that will make the New York Jets offensive line go from here to about right here. The offensive line did get much better with this move. And thank you to Joe Douglas. I feel like the New York Jets now really have three really solid offensive linemen. The other two in Van Roten and McGovern are good. They're nothing special, but they'll get the job done. And now you look at the offensive line. I'll go from left to right. You have Mekhi Becton. Then you have Elijah Vera Tucker. Then you have Connor McGovern. And the right side is Van Roten. And now Morgan Moses. And this Morgan Moses deal just puts the cherry on top to an excellent offseason by Joe Douglas. And do we make more moves? I don't know. Steven Nelson is still out there. I know. I would love to get him. I know a lot of Jets fans want him. Jets seem kind of calm. They kind of seem pretty, they seem good where they're at with corners. Corner, I still think, is a little bit of a weakness, but I'm glad to say that offensive line is now actually one of the Jets' relatively good points. I mean, it actually looks like this offensive line is coming together, and it looks like we really is going to protect Zach Wilson. And I said that the day we drafted Wilson, and then we got Tucker. This isn't just the new franchise quarterback for the New York Jets. This is Joe Douglas's quarterback. And what Joe Douglas is going to do with Wilson is give him pieces and give him protection. And it just goes to show you that he's giving him even more protection when in June he's still going out and signing a big-time offensive lineman in Morgan Moses. Right? That's what I keep on saying with this Zach Wilson. Everyone's like, oh, Zach Wilson's not going to do good. Okay, you could have your opinion, right? But you really can't compare him to Darnold because when Darnold got here, he didn't have any pieces. He had a terrible offensive line. Now that Wilson's gone here, we've built around him with the receivers. We've got a ton of running back depth, and now we've built an offensive line. This isn't just the New York Jets' new franchise quarterback. Joe Douglas got his franchise quarterback, and Douglas will build around Wilson. He already is a whole lot better than Mike McCagnon will with Sam Darnold. And it's already showing in just the first few months that Wilson has been a member of the New York Jets. And it's got to build an extreme confidence in your quarterback, knowing that the GM, the coaching staff, the front office is actually protecting you and giving you assets in the receiving game. Keelan Cole, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, getting Crowder back, right? This is a very good move. And one of the things the New York Jets struggled a little bit last season with their offensive line core was the injuries. They had a couple of injuries. And it was kind of one of those things, shortened off season. You had guys in and out and the chemistry. And I've always talked about this. If you can be consistent, I'll go out and get you. Consistency is a big thing when I judge players, right? I mean consistent, like not consistently bad. I mean like consistently good. If you can consistently stay healthy, be consistent with your play, consistent overall just with your leadership and consistent in the locker room, what you do. If you could be consistent, I'm all in on you. Like if I was a football GM, I'm going to go out and aim for consistency. I don't want guys that are going to show flashes of greatness and other than that be I want to see guys that are going to be consistent, can stay on the field consistently, be healthy, and be good in the locker room. And that's Morgan Moses checks all those boxes off. And you might say, oh, why, you're just saying that. No, I believe, if I remember correctly, he has not missed a game in 5 years. He's made every start since 2015. So this is a guy that consistently puts a good effort, plays well, and also is healthy. And that's one of the big things. Offensive linemen, a lot of times, that's why I said you can never hurt to have too many offensive linemen. Offensive linemen are usually prone to injuries. They're involved in every play. You're getting pushed into guys. You're banging with guys. You're running. You're not running. You're blocking. Injuries are a very high percent in the NFL, right? Injuries in the NFL are a common thing. We've seen it all the time, especially at the offensive line position, defensive line position. Where else? I guess you could say running back too. I mean, cutting, your knee, your ACL, stuff like that. And we saw it with obviously Barkley, who is the other running back in New York. One of the better running backs when healthy in the league. I'm trying to think of other positions. I mean, I guess you could say receiver, I guess you could say from, stopping and going. And we saw Cortland's son last year tear his ACL. But, offensive line, I would say, is a big position. It's an injury-prone position. Banging into guys, running, not running. It's a lot of, like, stop and go. It's kind of one of those things. And you could have a lot of soft tissue things. Morgan Moses has shown that he could stay healthy. I mean, he started every game. And he's a veteran. He's a veteran in his locker room. He's a tackle. He could be a mentor to Becton, mentor to Tucker. And you bring in a guy who's great in the locker room. You bring in a guy who's going to be very solid on the field. And the offensive line got a whole lot better with this signing of Morgan Moses. Alrighty, so Jets rumors, former Washington football team offensive tackle Morgan Moses agrees to 1 year, $3.6 million contract. The New York Jets and former Washington football team offensive tackle Morgan Moses have agreed to a 1-year deal per Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. Ian Rappaport posted this. The Jets are giving new offensive tackle Morgan Moses a 1-year deal worth $3.6 base salary. Source says Moses can get to $5.3 million with 80% or more playing time incentives. A really solid signing, locking in a starter in June. Washington selected Moses with the 66th overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft. Moses started 97 of his 104 games for Washington over 7 years before it released him on May 20th. Moses is a native of Virginian and who also played college ball for the University of Virginia. Was a USA Today high school All-American and a third-team All-ACC player at UVA. Per Orlad's, the Jets' starting offensive line is projected to be left tackle Mekhi Becton, left guard Elijah Vera Tucker, center Connor McGovern, right guard Greg Van Roten, and right tackle George Font. That was the projected starting offensive line before this move. Now it is Becton, Tucker, McGovern, Van Roten, and now it's Morgan Moses. Becton, the number 11 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, will certainly protect rookie quarterback Zach Wilson's blind side, as I mentioned earlier. It's very big to protect your quarterback's blind side. However, Moses could start at right tackle over Font, which, like I mentioned just now, he will, who ranked 29th among 38 qualifiers at right tackle in Pro Football Focus grading system. Per Pro Football Focus, Ben Lindsay, Pro Football Focus gave Moses an 80.6 grade in 2020. The Jets are set to report to training camp on Tuesday, July 27th. They'll hit the road to play the Carolina Panthers to open their regular season on Sunday, September 12th. So that's going to be a fun matchup. I'm excited for that matchup. A lot of good matchups up on the Jets schedule. So, and obviously, Morgan Moses, big addition, big move up front, veteran in the locker room, a guy who consistently stays on the field. I could actually check here on ESPN, his stats, mainly the games played. Morgan Moses, here we go. Let's see, actually, I'm going to go, I'm going to go through Pro Football Focus because it's kind of weird with offensive linemen. There's not like stats. Like there's grades, there's amount of sacks allowed, there's percentages of, how many sacks you let up, how many plays, snaps you play. There's not like receiving yards and all that kind of stuff because they're an offensive lineman, so you don't do that. All right, so he hasn't missed a game since 2015. So he's played 6 straight years. He has not missed a game in 6 years. 2015 to 2020 has not missed a game. So he played 16 games in 2015. He started 16 games in 2015, started 16 games in 2016, started 16 games in 2017, started 16 in 18, 19, and 20. So he has started 16 games in his entire career. 2014 was his rookie season. He played 8 games, only started 1 of those games. So which means he didn't start 7. But other than that, he has started 97 games in his career and played a total of 104 in his career. And the only games he didn't start was in his rookie year. And he's 29 years old, and he has not missed a game in 6. He's played every game, and he's played every game 6 years in a row. So, like I mentioned, consistently on the field, stays healthy, and just really glad to have him on the roster. And like I mentioned, a veteran in the locker room too, who has played a lot. He's played 104 games in his career. A veteran in the locker room, a guy who is on the field a lot, consistent, and definitely love the move by the New York Jets and continue to build the offensive line. Alrighty, so let's get to the New York sports update as we finish off the podcast here today. Yesterday in the NBA, the Clippers won 116-102, so they forced a Game 6. And today we got the Hawks and the Bucks. If Trae Young's healthy, actually give me the Bucks. I don't know if Trae Young's to be 100%. Yesterday in the NHL, the Lightning won 5-1, so they move up 1-0 in the series. Pretty big beat down there. And as for the MLB yesterday, the Dodgers won, Orioles won, Brewers won, Cardinals won, Red Sox won, Indians won, Nationals won, Reds won, and Rockies won. Obviously, Mets lost yesterday 8-4, so they moved to 40-34 on the season. 3 errors by the Mets, not very good. Kyle Schwarber went 3 for 5, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, 2 home runs, which moves his home runs to 24 on the season, ups his batting average to 257. So he's having a good season, especially recently. All right, as for today in the MLB, we got the Phillies, Marlins. I'll give Phillies the win. Nationals, Rays. Give me the Rays the win. Blue Jays, Mariners. I'll give Blue Jays the win. Padres, Reds. Give Padres the win. Red Sox, Royals. Give Red Sox the win. Indians, Tigers. Give Indians the win. Brewers, Cubs. Give Brewers the win. Cheaters, Orioles. I'll give Cheaters the win. White Sox, Twins give White Sox to win. Cardinals, Diamondbacks give Cardinals to win. Rockies, Pirates give Rockies to win. A's, Rangers give A's to win. And Dodgers, Giants. That's a good matchup. Gausman versus Buehler. Give me the Dodgers. Actually, Gausman's been dominant. That's tough. Dodgers. Alrighty, and the Mets play today. Mets come in this game 40-34. Braves come in this game 37-40. This game comes on today, 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time on MLB Network. You could also, I'm pretty sure, find this game on SNY. Mets got McGill on the mound. He's 0-0 in the season with 4.15 ERA. And the Braves got Charlie Morton on the mound. He's 7-3 with a 3.6 ERA. The over-under for this game is 9. And 68% of people say the Braves will win. I will join those 68% of people, and I say the Braves will win. Yankees also play today. This is second game of a 4-game set against the Angels. Yankees come in this game 40-38. Angels come into this game 38-40. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find this game on MLB Network and Yes Network. Angels got Andrew Heaney on the mound. He's 4-5 with a 4.72 ERA. And the Yankees got Jameson Taillon on the mound. He's 2-4 with a 5.18 ERA. The over-under for this game is 10. 77% of people say the Yankees will win. I tend to disagree. Until the Yankees prove otherwise, I think the Angels will win this game. Hope I'm wrong, but Taillon's been better recently, but we gotta hit with runners to scoring position and come up with big moments in the game. All right, as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 49-36. And today I've got going Yadier Molina, Luke Voigt, Whit Merrifield, Josh Johnson, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, but I have an update on him. Matt Olson, Christian Yelich, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Avisail Garcia, Josh Ross, and Will Smith. And no pitchers going today. So no real injury update outside of Segura and Correa. So I'll go with Segura's first. Phillies hope to activate Segura groin ahead of Tuesday's game against the Marlins. Matt Gelb of The Athletic report. So that's a positive injury report there. I got to figure out who I'm going to drop, who's going to be the odd man out. I got to figure that out. I was thinking about having it be J.P. Crawford. I thought about, I've thought about dropping Josh Donaldson. I was thinking more about dropping Josh Donaldson, especially if Correa is going to be out more of a long term now, because he's a shortstop and I need a shortstop now. But that's the update here on Correa. So Correa is day to day. So Correa left Monday's game against the Orioles after being struck by a pitch on his right knee. Brian McTaggart of the MLB.com reports. So I think if Segura does get activated, I will probably, as much as he's been good, I will probably drop Josh Donaldson and pick up because then if Carlos Correa now is out for an extended period of time, then I want J.P. Crawford in there. So that's kind of my thought process behind that. But, you just got to hope that it's nothing major, because Correa has been amazing for me this season, as much as I'm not a big, as much as I don't like the Astros at all. He's been amazing. So, but, we'll see. We'll see how everything plays out. But that's kind of my thought process, because Segura goes down as a second baseman and third baseman. So Donaldson's a third baseman. So gives me the opportunity, because if Correa goes down for a long term, then you got to go ahead and have another shortstop, which is J.P. Crawford. And actually, I'm perfectly fine with that, because Crawford actually could start on a lot of other teams. Right now, he's still considered technically a backup for me. But I'll tell you what, he's been amazing this season. He's had a good year. He's batting like 281. He's consistent too. He's not like he's been very hot recently. So you gotta hope that keeps up. But I was thinking about, because I have nowhere really where to put him. Like, I just have him on my roster. And I was kind of thinking about, not that I would like to trade him, but I was thinking about, like, I need pitching. Like, there's some people out there that could use infielders, use shortstops. So I was like this could be a solid acquisition. But, like, the thing is, I'm not going to get anyone crazy in return for him, just because he's a guy that has been sitting on waivers the entire year until, like, a week and a half ago I picked him up. But I was kind of thinking, like, if I trade him, I could get something in return, and his stock's going up. Like, this is the time to trade him because he's hot right now. He's playing well, but I don't want to trade him right now because I got to see what Correa goes. So if Correa stays healthy, if this whole thing with Correa maybe only, if it's nothing major, then we'll see. But he's listed as day-to-day, so I'm just hoping that he does not land on the IL. Although, like I said, that's kind of been one of my things with the IL. It's like one guy gets injured, like Segura's now healthy, and now Correa's on the IL. Like, he's not on the IL yet, but if you get what I'm saying, that's what's been happening with me all year, is I get healthy, and then a guy's on the IL, right? Segura's going to come back up. Now Correa's day-to-day. That's always what happens, which I guess isn't a bad thing, because once one guy's available, now another guy goes down. So I guess it's like 50-50. You're gaining one, but you're losing one. But I would like everyone to just be healthy, but we'll see how it all plays out. And I'm not sure when Bregman's going to be back. That they said, who knows when he'll be back. They said we'll reevaluate him like 2-3 weeks a couple days ago, so he's still going to be out for a little bit. I'm surprised Segura's back this quickly. Girardi, when he went down, said that it could be a long-term thing, but I think he's only been out for about a week or two. Long-term, I was thinking months or it'd be a little bit. But Segura's been big for the Phillies, and he's big for my fantasy team. So we'll see how it all plays out. But anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast in the books. Yankees and Mets on tonight. We'll see if either the Yankees or the Mets can try and get a win. Both teams right now are struggling, so we'll see what happens with that. But as always, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.